Welcome, everybody. This episode of Walking Between Shadows. We're your host. I'm Ben.
I'm Taryn.
And this episode is about a investigation that seems to be opening back up after 20 years in the Nashville, Tennessee area. So we're talking about Robertson County and Springfield, Tennessee, which is about 20 minutes north of Nashville. Authorities search home of Jennifer Wix's boyfriend 20 years after she and her 2-year-old daughter, Adrianna, were reported missing. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and Robertson County Sheriff's Office executed a search warrant at Owens Chapel Road in a home that could be connected to the disappearance of a mother and her daughter in 2004. Jennifer Wix, who was 21 at the time, and 2-year-old Adrianna were last seen on March 25th of 2004. Investigators spent hours at the Owens Chapel Road home of Joey Benton, who was Jennifer's boyfriend at the time of her and Adrianna's disappearance. Investigators didn't share what they were looking for, only that they were executing a warrant for an open investigation. "Oh my God, it's my sister. Oh my God, it's my niece," Casey Robinson, Jennifer Wick's sister, said after arriving at the search site Wednesday evening. Robinson said that was the first thing that came to her mind when her phone rang Wednesday afternoon. Calls from people that were concerned about the police presence that was here, Robinson said. They started sending me pictures, videos, and everything. I had no idea what was going on. Dozens of special agents and deputies surrounded the home. They told the public they were executing a search warrant. Then Robinson said her phone rang. A TBI agent and Robertson County Sheriff's detective reached out to us together to let us know that they were here and they were working on something but couldn't tell us what it was. Since Jennifer and Adrianna disappeared, Robinson said a person of interest in their case has been Benton. This is the first time in 20 years they have even had a warrant to go on the Benton property, Robinson said. Robinson said Benton was the last person to see her sister and niece on March the 25th of 2004. "We're not really sure what this is related to, but of course we're hopeful that it is related somehow to our case, especially after 20 years. At one point, firefighters said they were evacuating a small radius around the house after finding an object inside that could ignite, but TBI agents said they still didn't have an update for the public. If they're not there, and this is completely unrelated, I hope they at least use this time and resources wisely to look for my sister and niece." After more than 6 hours of searching, Robinson said she and her family had not gotten a call from investigators yet. So that's what happened yesterday at this property.
After 20 years.
After 20 years, a new investigator in Robertson County was put on this case.
Right.
So we can only deduce that something's going on with Jennifer and Adrianna's disappearance.
Right. Absolutely.
So let's take this back 20 years. Let's go back to 2004 when Jennifer and Adrianna disappeared and talk about the story. I understand that Jennifer and Adrianna moved in with Mr. Benton.
Yes.
On his parents' property in a she shed type of thing out back, or a storage shed that had been converted into a living space.
Right. Right. Her and Adrianna were living in this she shed that was converted into a home for them for several months. And according to family members, the relationship between Joey and Jennifer was pretty toxic. I know at one point I read that he did hold her and Adrianna at gunpoint. And Jennifer decided, that's it. I'm getting out of here.
Mm-hmm.
She leaves, but unfortunately comes back to Joey, back to that property where his parents and he were living. And they ended up moving into Joey's parents' home with the parent.
Yeah. Essentially the main house on the property.
The main house on the property. And I guess that continued to be pretty toxic between the two.
Well, not them. I mean, wasn't there some toxicity with his mother and her? And
yes.
Yeah, that dynamic had to have shifted as a result of them moving back in.
Right. And you think about it. I mean, the mother of Joey, I guess she confronted Jennifer before their disappearance or Joey and said, Adrianna cries too much. I don't know if she wanted her to quit crying. She's 2. I mean, and not only that, Adrianna had been really sick the week before they disappeared. He had a UTI and a vaginal infection and was in the hospital.
Now, is that common with 2-year-olds in houses like that?
Can happen, but usually it's signs of some kind of, sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Joey was not Adriana's father,
Mm-hmm.
and his parents weren't her grandparents, and it's a different dynamic.
Yeah, so I can imagine like Jennifer's having to protect not just herself,
Right,
but her child from not just Joey, but Joey's parents,
right, right,
especially his mother, apparently.
right. So she didn't have a cell phone. She didn't have a car or a job at that time
Or bank account.
or bank account. Um, so she was essentially dependent on Joey and his parents,
Mm-hmm.
at that time. And can you imagine being in a abusive,
No.
relationship and the parents being there as well,
Yeah.
and not having any support whatsoever. I know her family members tried to get her to move back in with them,
Mm-hmm.
but since she didn't have a job, she felt like a burden to them. At that time, she
Mm-hmm.
just felt like she was costing them too much money and that her and Adriana were a burden to them.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was a couple days before they disappeared. Jennifer's mom got to see Jennifer and Adriana. Joey had taken the two girls into town to a dollar store, and Jennifer's mom was at that dollar store.
Mm-hmm.
She had to go in there and get some like butt paste for Adriana. She couldn't even, this baby couldn't even urinate. She was having such a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
So she probably was crying a lot then. And the tension in that house,
Yeah.
but kids can feel that.
Yeah.
The last day that anyone spoke to Jennifer would have been March the 24th, I believe. And she had talked to her dad that week before she disappeared and told him she couldn't wait to see him that weekend, that Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going to go fishing. She spoke to her aunt, and I believe it was her aunt or her mother. But Adriana was crying in the back. She heard Adriana crying, and Jennifer went and got Adriana and was holding her and soothing her,
Mm-hmm.
locked herself in the bedroom with Adriana. And when Jennifer was asked, "Why are you locked? Why are you locked in the room? What's going on?"
Yeah.
She said that Joey's mom was acting really weird, and that they'd been complaining about how much Adriana cried.
Mm-hmm.
So she was just trying to soothe her and protect her at that time.
Well, it sounds to me like they all wanted Adriana out,
Right. Yeah.
and therefore Jennifer.
Of course. Of
Mm-hmm.
course. They wanted both of them out,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I understand that feeling that Jennifer had, like I don't want to be a burden on my family,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not a burden, it's not a burden. But she stayed there and she did tell, she told her, either her dad or whoever she was talking to on the phone, the last conversation on the 24th, that Joey and her were planning on going on a picnic that afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So, a couple days go by, you know, and no one's heard from Jennifer or Adriana. And she usually spoke to her mom, her grandmother for sure every day,
Mm-hmm.
her aunt, her dad
Well, and I read that she was real close to her sister
as well. Yeah.
because when she was working up until just within a little bit of time there, that Jennifer worked third shift, and therefore Casey and Jennifer talked quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So when nobody had heard from her, here it is, March the 27th, 2004 at this time.
Mm-hmm.
They call the police and file a missing person report. And of course, the police are going to say, or at that time, this is what they said. And many people hear this. She's grown. She was in there kind of a toxic relationship. She wants to get out of it. She's allowed to leave.
Mm-hmm.
We put a bolo out. And that's what happened at first. So be on the lookout was for her and Adriana.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought Joey in for questioning since he was the last one to see Jennifer and Adrianna.
Mm-hmm.
He claims that he took the two girls they had been fussing and fighting, him and Jennifer, and he took her into town to Grand Plains to a gas station.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't remember what gas station. That's what he told the police at first.
Yeah.
And he drops them two off. They both get out of the vehicle, and he goes across the street to see that they're okay and waits till someone picks them up. So he tells the police that someone in a white car, I think he said a four-door Mustang, a 90s model,
No such thing.
no such thing. And, that was it
Mm-hmm.
until the next day. So the next day, Jennifer comes back to his house without Adrianna in the same white vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And he walks in and tells him that, she's going to have to pick her check up, her income tax return.
Mm-hmm.
He stated that she didn't have her own bank account, so she was using his parents' bank account to have her money put into. And they were just going to take that money out and give it to Jennifer.
Yeah.
So, she tells him that she'll be back for that income tax return. She leaves and never comes back, and he never sees her again.
Mm-hmm.
So the missing person report is filed on the 27th. And soon after that, after he tells the police that she said she was going to come back for the income tax return.
Mm-hmm.
So Jennifer's family, I believe it was her mother, reached out and tried to get in touch with Joey, called and called and called, couldn't get in touch with him. Called his mother and his father, couldn't get in touch with them.
Yeah.
And sometime during that time when she was trying to get in touch with them, Joey's dad leaves a voicemail with her and
Mm-hmm.
tells her that he just mailed the check to her. And he just cut the check and sent it to her. And so she gets the check, and she planned on taking this check and putting it into an account for Jennifer and Adrianna when they came back.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes to the bank to start this account up, and there's been a stop payment on that check.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. So
Mm.
they're really freaking out now. What's going on?
Yeah. So that leads me to believe that, if I was part of that investigation, I'd say all of them are involved.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So they go and they talk to a couple other family members, one of them being Jennifer's cousin,
Mm-hmm.
who was really good friends with Joey. I don't know if he still is, but Joey tells Jeffrey, that's Jennifer's cousin, that he dropped her off with a friend, her and Adrienne off with a friend. Didn't say somebody in a white vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
said with a friend. So I suppose Jeffrey goes back and tells Jennifer's mom that, said he left her with a friend. And she gets to thinking, who is this friend that has a white vehicle? And it was only one friend that she had that had a white vehicle that, she would have even left with. Her name was Helga.
Oh, Lord.
And she gets in touch with Helga, and Helga says, well, if he claims that she was with me, he's
Uh-huh.
lying and there's something wrong because I haven't seen Jennifer or Adriana since November of 2020 or 2003 at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they've had two different stories, right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So they claimed she was with a friend, and this friend claimed she hadn't seen her in 5 months.
She hadn't seen her since November.
Uh-huh. Of 2003.
Right. So, yeah.
Wow. Again, that leads me to believe that everyone in his family could potentially have been involved in this, if that's the case. And then this whole thing about a four-door Mustang from the 90s,
Right.
no such thing from production.
So, when did they make a four-door Mustang?
That didn't debut until like 2019, 2020.
See, I read somewhere that they weren't going to do that until 2024.
No, they've been out for a few years. It's called the Mustang Mach-E.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So he was wrong. And the police officer that took the initial report that Joey told him that there was a 4-door Mustang
Mm-hmm.
in 90s model that picked up the girls,
Mm-hmm.
he was fired for taking that report.
Right. But here's the thing: if that was the case, that would have been a custom made vehicle, and it would have been so unique
Mm-hmm.
that people in that area
Would have known.
would have known.
Right.
Yeah, and would have probably been able to point out exactly who that was.
And let's talk about even the fact that at that time, Jennifer did not have a cell phone. She did not have a car. She did not have a job. The only phone she was able to use was the phone in the house of Joey's parents.
Yeah.
So the landline.
Yeah.
Who would she be calling to say, hey, come pick me up?
So how did she talk to her parents and her sister and her grandparents?
She would use the landline to call them.
Yeah.
In the house, right?
Yeah.
So who was she calling in this white car?
Right. No.
And saying, hey, tonight, come meet me out and pick me up at this gas station. Because 2004, yeah, there were cell phones, but she didn't have one. And then they weren't as used as they are now.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think that was about the time smartphones were debuted, but still everybody had the old flip phone or,
Mm-hmm.
the little Nokia that was not a smartphone. It was just a phone, basically.
Right. And when they went missing, I mean, it was still pretty cold outside.
Mm-hmm.
She did not take Adriana's jacket. The first warrant that was ever, not warrant, but the first time that premises was ever searched, all of Jennifer's belongings were there except for like her glasses, Adriana's car seat.
Mm-hmm.
So, and her Adriana's diaper bag was gone.
Mm-hmm.
So there was things that were gone that looked like, but how much time had passed that they could think, hey, if she left, she would take the car seat, and supposedly the night of the 24th or the 25th, there was a bonfire.
Mm.
And Jennifer was supposed to be at that bonfire, but she wasn't.
She might have been.
And it was the bonfire out by that shop
Mm-hmm.
that they lived in.
Mm-hmm.
So he had invited couples. It was Joey. It was supposed to be Joey and supposed to be Jennifer, and then another couple or 2 other couples, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, like I said,
Jennifer.
she might have been there.
He told her family that she broke up with him.
Yeah.
That night, and why would he know where she was?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So I'm hoping, my fingers are so crossed. I'm watching this case because her sister and her mother and her friends and everyone that loved Jennifer and Adriana, they deserve these answers. Can you imagine going 20 years and kind of knowing that there's something on that property?
No, and I want to say to our audience, you need to share this. You need to share this. This is an example of what we talked about in the last episode where it seems like the media picks and chooses who gets the attention here.
That's right.
And you've got to share this. You've got to keep this word out because somebody somewhere knows something.
Yeah.
And as prolific as social media is nowadays in the fabric of our lives, this is a great way to get the word out and to help find answers.
That's right.
And, I hate to say this word because it's not really appropriate, but I can't think of any other way to put it. But it's exciting to know that there are investigators that are, working some of these cold cases and will eventually find something.
That's right.
And eventually break the case wide open.
Because it can't get any easier for these families. There's no way that this could be any easier over 20 years.
Right.
To not know where they're at every single day for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that son of a bitch knows something.
Yeah.
And they had to have something big to execute a search warrant 20 years later.
Yeah.
And I listened to a little bit of what Jennifer's sister, Casey, was talking about on the Facebook, Justice for Jennifer and Adrianna Wix. There must be some issues going on within the family,
Mm-hmm.
Joey's family, the Benton family, that they may be breaking up and starting to turn against each other.
Well, so a couple of things I deduce from what we've heard today
Mm-hmm.
and yesterday. they started evacuating the area. Now, if they find dead bodies or something like that, I don't think that's a reason to evacuate an area.
Right.
It's maybe a reason to rope some stuff off where people can't get onto the site.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're evacuating the area because they found something that could potentially ignite or was flammable,
Right.
I'm thinking, yeah, maybe the family's having a little bit of comeuppance about the drug trade,
Right.
you know, because that's really the only time I hear of law enforcement backing people down is when there's potential of like a meth lab explosion or something like that.
Right.
Okay. And that could be reason to get onto the property. And it's kind of like her sister said in that article, if they're not there, then I hope at least they use some of the time for whatever reason they're there to look for Jennifer and Adrianna.
Right.
So we don't know. They haven't said anything. We don't know what we don't know. And it seems to me like those are indicative of maybe some drug issues. And you know what happens to families that do that kind of stuff? They get crossways about the money or the dope or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they start telling on each other. So that could be what opened the door here. And I'm kind of like Casey and you. I hope if that happens to be the case, that they at least utilize some of that time to look for Jennifer and Adrianna.
Right. I mean, you see this going on, and it's the hopes that have to be so high after all these years.
Yeah.
I just hope for this family
Yeah.
of Jennifer and Adriana that they get some answers that they so desperately deserve. There's even I believe there's a $25,000 reward for anyone that has any information on this case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, they're desperate. Casey even stated that at this time, her and her mother both feel that um, they don't really need to know what happened. They just want them to come home, and they want to have some proper burial for their family,
Mm-hmm.
and they deserve that.
Yes, they do. Like
Absolutely.
everybody else, they do.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. It's very hard, but again, I'm enthusiastic because law enforcement is actually doing something with a case this old.
Right.
And who cares if it's connected to some other crime?
Right.
I just have to hold out hope, like Casey, that they are looking for Jennifer and Adrianna.
Here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the income tax return, okay, you know, that his family took and put into their account and then stopped payment when they said they paid it out.
Uh-huh.
Would that not spark some interest with anyone? I mean, like federally? I mean,
I
it's
don't
been
know.
20 years. I mean, how can you hold someone else's money for 20? And if they use that money,
Yeah, I don't know.
right?
I don't know.
Right.
If it's not a charge, at least it should be some sort of evidence that helps them discover what's going on and maybe bring this to an end.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Well, again, stay tuned, everybody. We are going to update this. This is changing almost hourly.
Yes.
And we are waiting very patiently on law enforcement to say what they found, if anything, or what this is even connected to.
Mm-hmm.
So hang in there with us. Check for updates and hit like and subscribe, obviously, but hit the notifications bell if you want to know what's going on in the Jennifer and Adrianna case.
Yeah.
Hit that notifications bell so you can see when we post new content.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about something else I want to talk about for a minute.
Okay.
Walking Between Shadows has something new coming.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we're currently working on building a website.
That's right.
And with this website, we're going to connect with everybody who wants to live a little bit of the softer side of life and maybe indulge in some products and stuff like that we use and that we've found useful and helpful to our audience and the listeners out there.
Yeah.
But we'll keep you updated on that too. But we're going to launch Walking Between Shadows store soon.
Yes, we are.
Right on. I'm excited. I can't wait.
Me too.
So it's going to be men and women's products. It's going to be, things like, again, living the natural approach to life and products that are good for your home and your body and your health and all that fun stuff. And Wiccan products, we're going to have tarot cards. We're going to have a lot of fun stuff on there for everybody to enjoy.
That's right.
And again, we'll update you as soon as we know something. We're going through the design phases right now. So it's going to be a little bit, but I think we're going to launch pretty quick.
Yeah,
All right. Well, Taryn, I know you're excited about that.
I am.
All right. Well, thank you again to the listeners out there. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and the notifications bell so you can see when new content comes out. We'll update you about the website as we cross different hurdles and get objectives completed.
That's right.
And we'll see you again very soon with another episode of Walking Between Shadows.
Bye.
Bye.